running, running to you. I've been running to you, running, running to you. Anywhere that you go to.
All right, I'm tingling with joy running to you, dear listener, this afternoon. It's another beautiful Monday. I am Segilola. I welcome you to another inspiring episode of Mindscope. And of course, Emmanuel is here with me again. Such a joy. Emmanuel, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, my sister. How was the weekend?
So it was a restful one. You can see me shining.
All weekend.
Yes, I took time to actually rest, and of course I took time to read. I love reading.
I know. Right?
In fact, that's the inspiration. Some of the lessons I took away from the book I read. My favorite book, anyway. That is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. You read it. That's a book I don't want to finish reading.
Like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I'm even looking at the application because
which is more important, actually.
Exactly. So it's more about applying the principles, the lessons to one's life, and making the necessary adjustments. You understand? And so today on Mindscope, we're taking a cue from that, an inspiration from the book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it will interest you to know that recently I saw a quote on LinkedIn. It's actually a trending quote. Yes, and that also collaborates, in fact, with the lessons I took away from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This quote really, it says here that you cannot become better at what you do until you become better at who you are.
Definitely.
You love that.
What you don't have, you can give.
What you don't have, you cannot give. Thank you. That's paraphrased. However, we have the originator of this quote. She's right here in front of us.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's so amazing. I told one of my team members working with me, at the museum yesterday, when he saw a picture, when he saw the online banner, and he said, wow, this woman is very beautiful. She's very beautiful. Definitely. But I can tell you that the way she looks is even more beautiful than the picture. Don't mind me. All right, dear. Yeah, very true. That's it. There are times when you see people online and it's as if everything is just smooth. Perfect. For me, that should not be the goal.
Yeah.
The goal should be the look, who you are. When people see you, they'll be like, wow, I didn't know you're even this. Yes, you look better. That's part of what not the other way around. Exactly. When everything seems to be smooth online, and when they see you in reality,
are you sure you don't have been talking to? Nah.
So those are part of one of the lessons we're going to learn today. Leading from the place of self. Leading from the place of self. And I also need to quickly say this. I had a very long walk to the office this morning. Okay. Yes, there was a change of plans. And in fact, the long walk was a compulsory one. And one of the things coming to me is that, look, because of everything that happened, the challenges I faced this morning, it was as if I wouldn't be able to come, make it to this show today. But I said, my spirit man, let me put it that way, was saying to me that, you've made up your mind never to give excuses not to show up wherever you're needed. That is something that pushed me. And everything, I had to go the extra mile, I must confess, yes, getting to the office today. What I'm saying is, on this journey, on a purposeful journey, on the journey of achieving success in life, there's some things we need to learn to give up. There are some self-limiting beliefs or habits. On that note, lest I do the talking all through this session, but I must say I want to leave the talking to our beautiful guest. She's a leadership expert, and over the years, I must say I've been watching her, stalking her online. I confess this to her. I hope I'm forgiven anyway. She is actually the founder of Reli's Works. She's a leadership development strategist. A great pleasure to have you on Mindscope, Kemi Ogunkoya.
Thank you, Segilola. Thank you so much for having me. And hello, Emmanuel.
Hello.
All right, Kemi Ogunkoya. I want us to start from your favorite. Is it your favorite quote, right?
Wow,
It's one of them.
It is one of them.
Okay, great. You cannot become better at what you do until you become better at who you are. I perceive there's a story behind this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let us hear this.
All right. So you cannot become better at what you do unless you become better at who you are. You know, it's a quote that came to me about 7 years ago, you know, and it's really personal because, you know, sometimes I just wish I'm not sounding like a broken record already, but I know that if we can fix it from the place of self, we will be able to fix a whole lot of other things. So, you know, I started business over a decade ago and leaving the banking sector, I got into human resources and, you know, everything was fine until I just felt that there was more. And, you know, there was just that nudge on the inside and I had to make that move, that bold move into entrepreneurship. And I started my business. It was fine on the technical point of view. You know, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Started having great clients. But somewhere along the line, you know, it was 2 years down the line actually, and we couldn't go on anymore. You know, it was a very painful moment of my life. We had to shut down the office, you know, and pretty much say bye-bye to the business at that point. We were broke, you know, I was highly frustrated, and the reasonable thing at that point was to shut down the business, which we did, you know. And getting back to the drawing table, I was really upset with myself, trying to understand what exactly happened. We were doing great technically, you know, we knew exactly what we wanted to do. So what happened? And then the quote dropped very strongly in my heart that
Wow.
you cannot become better at what you do unless you become better at who you are. And it was a bitter pill that I had to swallow, you know. And I remember going back to tracing my footstep, and then, you know, I started seeing where the issues were. And it was a whole more of personal issues than it was about the
Business
technical
issue.
competence. You know, I saw that there were times I couldn't listen to no. You know, when
Wow.
people told me no, it was more of a personal attack. And it wasn't so much about the no that was being said. It was about who I was at that point. I couldn't deal with it. It was, you know, where I was in terms of my self-awareness, because I
Okay.
took that as a personal feedback of, you know what, you are incapable, so just go away.
That was
Go
your
crawl
understanding
somewhere.
of
Exactly.
the no then.
You know, and those are some of the things that we encounter. I in fact, one of the interesting things I talk about is looking at my bank records, you know, my business bank records, and I saw things like Domino Pizza, you know, and things like so there was a whole lot that had to be fixed on the inside, you know, talking about understanding what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, what my values were, what my interests were.
So more of a personal appraisal.
It was, you know, and that's exactly where it starts from. But a lot of times we want to build from the outside. You know, you rush out to building a business, you rush out to starting a family, but then you haven't consolidated who you are on the inside. And until you get it right on the inside, you will struggle on the outside.
Wow, this is quite amazing. And this actually corroborates what one of the profound lessons from that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Private victory precedes public victory.
Absolutely.
Now, this present time, we were discussing earlier, you go online, we have access to information, a huge chunk of it. But why is it that we seem to have more knowledgeable people around us? And you were you were talking earlier about operational dexterity when it comes to setting up a business, running a business, that most people will want to emphasize that. But it gets to a point where the operational dexterity seems not to be adequate to sustain, you know, the business. And so you have many knowledgeable people around us. But how come there are issues when it comes to connecting or applying the knowledge to fix ourselves?
So here's the thing, right? And it stems from the motive for even wanting to learn. Now, the motive for wanting to lead. A lot of people go into leadership, for example, to lead other people, right? And if your motive is, you know what, I'm going there to command, to control, and to instruct, then you do not take personal responsibility for your own actions, because everything has to do with them that you lead. when it also comes to learning, if your intention is to learn to survive, if you're learning because you want to start a business, rather than learning to apply that information first and then you can now take it on to impacting
to
your
others.
business and other things, then there will be a huge misalignment. So when you see that, yes, we're in a time where information has never been this democratized, but
True.
then people are not learning to use it for themselves. They're learning to see how they can make money from that lesson. So you have a lot of do as I say, but then don't do as I do, because even they do not apply lessons. I catch myself, probably in sessions or when I'm coaching, and then I'm telling someone or coaching someone around certain areas, and then I catch myself reminding myself that, Kemi, hope you are doing this. I do hope you are doing this. And that's where we need to be, where we can always come from that place of self-reflection, where we can come from that place of, not just learning to dish out, right? But then we're first learning to apply, and then we're learning to improve our own lives.
Very true. So you actually eat to stay healthy.
True.
First.
True.
And then you can be a blessing to others.
Absolutely.
And so that also applies to even the mind.
It does.
What you feed yourself first.
True.
You should be able to apply it to solve even your own issues.
Issues.
You might not be the only one. There are times when you need to share with others. I also remember earlier that you were talking about at that point when you had a challenge with a business, you had to teach yourself. For most of us, that will be a bitter truth. Getting to that point of, please, madam, listen to yourself, teach yourself. Can you please reiterate that point?
So I think that I would draw out from the last question I just answered, and which is about the intention, right? So the intention for me at that point in my life was not to make more money. The intention was, you need to first fix yourself. And then when you fix yourself, then you can fix other things. Now, we live in a world where there's so much attention on, what we can, changing ourselves from the outside. Okay? People want to invest on themselves rather than investing in themselves.
Wow.
So you want to invest on yourself, buy the trendy clothes, look really good, sparkling on the outside, driving the latest cars and all of that. But then what do you have on the inside? A lot of people are bankrupt on the inside. There's nothing there, right? Other than the things they have to show on the outside. So we need to get to that point where we are realigning. I say we are in an age where there's so much moral bankruptcy, where we have lost sight on what is most important to us, until we get to that point where we are rearranging. Right, where we're not putting the outward expression before what we're consolidating on the inside. So before the show, right, there has to be consolidation around principles.
Great.
Consolidation around becoming a better version of yourself. When you become a better version of yourself, every other thing around you would improve. If you become a better self, you become a better parent. If you become a better self, you become a better business leader.
Sure.
If you become a better self, you become a better political leader. It all stems from the place of self. So rather than looking for how to command and control and instruct on the outside, first start by dishing some of those orders and those information on yourself. Invest in yourself. Spend quality time understanding what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your values are, what your motivations are. Why do you wake up every morning, right? Why do you deserve a spot here on earth? I say that when it comes to leadership, it's shapeless. Right? It's a shapeless phenomenon, and it doesn't matter what your age is, what your size is, what your religious affiliations are. It doesn't matter. When you make that choice to want to lead, which is beyond the condition, which is beyond the situation, when you make up that mind to want to lead, then you better start leading with yourself.
Wow, this is getting deeper. Honestly, this is beautiful. All right, Kemi Ogunkoya, I know that what you're saying now is so deep, we can't even exhaust it in this session. This also reminds me of one of the profound lessons I took away from that book, I keep going back to the book, and he said, Stephen Covey, he says that a lot of people actually concentrate on secondary success and they neglect the primary success. The secondary success is the show off. Everybody, you want to be known as successful, as a business person or even as a family person or whatever aspect of life. And so that's more like a socially recognized success. But the primary success is actually hinged on character building. And that's the foundation of any sustainable or even progressive society. Now, let's look at, I'm looking at those issues really as a leadership expert. You've been in this business for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
Are there some experiences you would love to share so that you can enlighten us on some of those self-limiting beliefs or habits we need to learn to give up?
Okay. All right. So the issues, challenges take different forms and different shapes, right? So there's no one size fits all approach,
Okay.
To some of the challenges that people may face. However, I say that, we all are aware of the kind of people we would love to be. We know the definition of good and bad. We all do, right? So it would boil down to us being in that place where we are teachable, right?
Wow.
Where we do not look at the previous experiences that we have had as a jail for us to continue living in. Where we understand the place of nature and nurture, right? And we understand the place of that in the course of our growing up, in the course of nurturing, right? Quite a number of things could have gone wrong. Now, it is not for us to sentence ourselves to death, right? By saying, you know what, I've experienced this and these experiences have made me like this and then I can't change it. No. We need to understand the place of, being someone who is on a journey. I say that leadership is a continuum, which means that the journey will never end. We can never exhaust the full spectrum of learning, which means that we can always keep learning, unlearning and relearning.
Wow.
And especially when it comes to habits, you learn a habit, you can also unlearn that habit, right? So we need to get to that point where we know, okay, you are probably, someone who tells lies. Understand, why do you tell lies? A lot of us want to change things from the place of the behavior. But then, what is the reason why?
What's the root
exactly
of that problem?
So, there's something we call the cognitive behavioral theory. And in the cognitive behavioral theory, it says that thoughts creates feelings and feelings create behaviors. And then behaviors reinforce thoughts. So it's an entire cycle that keeps going on forever. So if you want to change certain behaviors that you know that you do not want to continue living by, what are the thoughts that are sponsoring those behaviors, right? Every human being processes averagely about 60,000 thoughts every day. How many of those thoughts are we aware of? And guess what? Majority of those thoughts are negative. Right? They are negative. So we have to get to that point of consciousness to say, for every behavior you exhibit, what has led you to that? And then we have to get to that point where we become conscious about who we want to be. You can define exactly who you want to be and create, set out the values, the behaviors that would help you become that person.
Wow, there's so much. And this also reminds me of one of the lessons I took away from an emotional intelligence training I attended some time ago. I take responsibility for who I am. That blame game has to stop.
We have to.
And then as we round up, I remember one of the insights you shared with me prior to the session, talking about we must be careful what we put online, what we post online. Every post is a seed, and it will certainly birth something in the heart of somebody.
Absolutely.
And so we need to be careful. And so we're rounding up. What do you have to say to people?
Yeah, so what I'd like to say, would be hinged on that quote that you cannot become better at what you do unless you become better at who you are. And to become better at who you are means that you have to start taking personal responsibility of the responsibility that lies on your shoulders. Now you have to start seeing yourself beyond, this individual person, and understand that this same you has effect over the entire population of the world.
True. You can influence people.
And beyond the people living, you also have great influence over the future of humanity. So we need to start seeing ourselves beyond, I just live in Lagos, or I live in Okoko, or I live in one village, maybe if you're from my village in Elado, you have to start seeing yourself beyond that and understand that you are a seed, and everything you drop out there, every behavior, every thought you release into the universe has great implications. So let's start taking responsibility for how we live our lives, how we speak with people, how we represent ourselves. For everything we say, we have to take responsibility. For everything we do, we have to take responsibility, because the future of humanity lies in our hands.
Oh, great. Your social media platform?
Kemi.Ogunkoya on Instagram, and then I'm very active on LinkedIn, Kemi Ogunkoya.
God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I pray the Lord will continue to enrich you greatly.
Amen.
Dear listener, what more can I say? I pray and I hope that you've been able to get as much as you can from this session. And please learn to apply those things.